there, moguls. It's me, Marshall Silver, your personal millionaire maker. Getting very excited about my brand new show, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'm going to broadcast live to you. In the first hour of the broadcast, I'm going to give you content, information for better sex, more money, emotional, mental, physical, and even spiritual power. I'll also invite some of my cool multi-millionaire and billionaire friends onto the show to give you more direction, more advice, more strategies and gambits for having it all. The second hour is what I'm most excited about. It's when I get a chance to chat with you. Yes, you. Where you can call in, talk to me, ask me questions. And if you say the secret word of the day, you could win $5,000 cash. At the very least, if you're the most interesting call of the day, you could also win 10 ounces of freshly minted Marshall Silver 999 fine silver. All of that and more. Brand new Mercedes-Benz sedan or SUV up for grabs. My personal Rolls-Royce Phantom up for grabs. All the knowledge to get everything you want and so much more. All you got to do is log in to the show to get information about its release coming up. 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, coming to you live from the bunker right here at Studio Money. I'm Marshall Silver, your personal millionaire maker.
Let me bring in our hypnotist, Marshall Silver.
It's Marshall Silver, ladies and gentlemen, the world's fastest hypnotist.
Welcome home. It is me, Marshall Silver. You are on Marshall Silver Live, where absolutely anything can and usually does happen. I want to let you know if you're a first-time viewer, and I can see a lot of you are, please know that at times I might offend you. I might say something you don't agree with. I might speak about my love of my country or my support for President Trump. I might even tell you there's only two genders and all sorts of other things. But I will tell you this. If during the time that I am broadcasting and doing this show, if there's ever a time that I offend you from the depths of my heart, I want to say, get over it already. My God, what kind of a woke snowflake are you? Do not let other people have your power. Realize that nothing has any power except the power that you give it, and it's your choice to just have some fun. Hey, on today's show, I'm really excited about our guest because this guest not only is ex-military, which I always salute our service people, very grateful for the country that I live in. Zack Gray is an ex-military member, entrepreneur, and owner of a successful strength and conditioning facility in Needham, Massachusetts. From food stamps, bankruptcy as a child, to building and managing his own businesses. Zack has been able to overcome the odds to reach financial independence through real estate by amassing an impressive 240 doors in less than 3 years. With a state college education in finance, Zack has also been able to put his knowledge to work in operating his own businesses as well as building his real estate portfolio. Zack has experience operating as a GP on syndication teams and deals and specializing in asset management, budgeting, renovation scope, project management, tenant relations, investor relations, and so much more. It is with great pleasure that I welcome to Marshall Silver Live, a guy of a different color, Zack Gray. Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you so much for having me on today. I really appreciate it. And, just hopefully I can, share a little bit about my personal journey and, provide some value to all the viewers and listeners that are out there today.
Awesome, man. First and foremost, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from basically right outside Boston, Massachusetts, in Needham.
Boston will always and forever hold a very dear place in my heart. Back in 2007, on January 27th at 9:07 in the morning, I walked up the aisle of a seminar I was doing, and there was this beautiful woman seated 4 rows back on the center aisle. And I was smitten from the moment I laid eyes on her, and I hypnotized that woman to ask me out on a date. And over 17 years later, I am still in trance. She's my wife, and
Wow.
we have 3 amazing kids together. So Boston is a very special place in my book. Love Massachusetts. Glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
In your bio, in the intro, you were military. What branch?
I was actually in the Army. I served as a reserve for 6 years. I actually enlisted in the military as a means to help facilitate paying for my collegiate education. One of the things that I was very passionate about from a very young age was not accumulating any form of debt that would negatively impact my financial capabilities as I sort of transitioned.
And what
into
was
early
that
adulthood.
born out of?
What was that?
You at a young age determined that you would not have any debt. Usually when human beings do that, they're looking at something they don't ever want to experience. What was that idea or that belief born out of?
Yeah, so when I was 17 years old, my parents filed for bankruptcy. I had essentially, my entire life I was told from my parents, get good grades in high school and everything will get taken care of and you'll go to college and you'll go to a great school and you'll be successful. So I kind of held up my end of the bargain, and by the basically about 3 weeks before I was supposed to make my my collegiate decision as to where I would be attending, I had gotten into all the schools that I applied to, and was sort of eager to take on the next phase of my life, which was going to be continuing education post high school. And my parents basically just dropped this bomb on my life that essentially, we can't pay for you to go to school. You're kind of on your own. Good luck. And I was seeing all the ramifications of what those circumstances meant for both me, my family, my siblings, and so on and so forth.
So you utilize the service. You get yourself your collegiate education. Do you have a degree?
Yes. So I actually I didn't make this decision right out the gate. I actually decided that when I graduated, from May until September, I ended up working 80 hours a week. I accumulated enough funds to be able to pay for my freshman year of college in cash. So I ended up doing that my freshman year. I got done with that and I worked full time throughout my freshman year, realized that I didn't want to have to do that again the following summer. And that was when I actually decided to enlist. But, to kind of get back to answering your question, yeah, I have a 4-year degree from a state university in Massachusetts in finance.
Lovely. And how much of that do you use today?
I would say a lot now. I would say early on. So when I enlisted in the military, I developed a passion for fitness. And I actually, when I graduated college, what I saw 2 avenues. I saw one avenue where I'd be working 60 to 70 hours a week. I'd be a very entry level employee for a finance oriented position. I saw sort of an inactive, lifestyle with potentially the development of some bad habits. And so I chose to apply for finance positions, but I really wanted to pursue at the time personal training positions, largely because during my junior and senior year of college, I had built out my own personal training business, and in a less advantageous economic landscape in sort of a secondary city in Massachusetts called Worcester. So my intention was to be able to transfer the skills that I had acquired and the business skills that I had conveyed through running my own operation while I was in college, and sort of transition those into a more prominent role at a higher end luxury facility, which is what I ended up doing in one of the more affluent suburbs of Boston. And that was what I ended up choosing to do because I felt like the name of the game when you're young is trying to obtain skills, but also trying to acquire a form of income that how fast can you get to a high performing job, and then how frugal can you be during that time in order to acquire a nest egg that allows for you to accumulate capital that you can use to earn more capital or to take to invest so that you can create more revenue streams for yourself. And that was my intention from inception.
Sounds massively disciplined and incredibly hard.
That's the military.
Yes, without a doubt. And again, that's part of what builds though that character of understanding that you got to get through the tough stuff to get to the easy stuff. And I think that most people just are unwilling to do the hard work to get to the easy work because they don't think either the easy work is on the end of all that, or they don't think that they have to. Maybe they feel entitled. And so, again, it's a common theme on this show with the guests that we have that sometimes people think life is hard. And my response is no, life just is. That's the thing. Life just is. And, if you view that as hard, then yeah, your life's going to be hard. If you view that as life, then you're going to say, oh, well, how awesome is it that I have feet? How incredible is it that I'm not having to search for food any further than my refrigerator? You've done great. And I want to talk specifically because we're in interesting times. And obviously, you not only are massively successful in many areas of your life, fitness and everything else you got going on, you've also invested heavily in the last, how many years? 3-4 years?
Yeah, 3 years.
3 years in a multifamily, in apartments. And you have about, what, 240 doors right now?
That's correct.
I see people in all areas of real estate investing. I see people because a lot of my strategic alliance partners teach people how to buy and sell real estate. And my experience has been that real estate has a lot of variances. What do I mean by that? On one end, you have no credit, no money down opportunity seekers. And then you have people that are, fix and flippers. They got some capital in the game and they're playing that. You got people that are, buying and selling contracts and basically flipping houses. And you go all the way through single family, you go all the way through multifamily, commercial, and then back to the other end of that is finance again. My experience has been multifamily, because it makes that bridge from single family residence, being a residence, to a business. That is a major leap for people to make, yet a massive gain in potential and profitability. What's the reason you think people that are buying and selling real estate, what's the reason you think more people aren't buying and selling multifamily?
I think that it can be intimidating for people to not know where to start. They don't know where they're going to secure their vendors. They don't know how, they don't know how terms work with banks. They don't know what banks to work with. They don't know who they should use for legal advice. I think that what is important if you have aspirations of getting into multifamily is becoming very versed in the tactical side of things, but then also building your team. And I think that you need to do both of those things simultaneously. I think you need to be extremely eager to grow your knowledge basis. I think that one of the things that sets exceptionally successful people apart and people who end up not being successful is the relentless curiosity to improve knowledge basis in a various topic. And I think that if you have aspirations of getting into multifamily, I think you have to be relentless in trying to accumulate information that will aid in your performance and in your ability to become a successful operator. And I think that in addition to that, I also think, like I mentioned, you have to be understanding who the chess pieces are that make up your team and what roles they take on. And you then need to become the chess master. You need to be able to use those pieces to help facilitate running your operation. And as time goes along, you're going to accumulate more pieces because your operation will grow.
This is good stuff. This is really good stuff. I want to compliment you. You don't smile a lot. And there we go. I like that. That's beautiful. But when I was listening to you, I was thinking about the fact that you're both an academic and a soldier. And you're highly efficient. And I bet you that's how your brain works. It looks at any circumstance and says, what's efficient here? What would be the best way to do this thing? What order should we put everything in? And I would agree with you. We have a lot of conversations with people that aspire to be real estate investors. And oftentimes, one of the things they'll say is, oh, I can find this on information online. I don't need to buy that course. I don't need to give you money so that I can learn about notes or multifamily or fix and flip or, seller finance deals. And my response is always the same. You're right. You don't need me. You can go find it online. It's going to take you a while to sift through it. Then you'll have to figure out what's legit and what's not. And then finally, ultimately, when you go out and do something, you won't have anybody to talk to figure out whether you're actually doing what you're supposed to or not. And, I've invested millions of dollars in mentors just because it's efficient, just because it's a fast way to cut to the chase and, start where their knowledge is and build on that rather than go gain all their knowledge because you're going to have to do it anyway. When you were talking about all those things people need, who was your first mentor inside of the multifamily space?
Yeah, so I couldn't agree more. It actually sounds like it sounds like you briefly potentially spoke to my wife backstage prior to the this meeting. But what I was going to say is that I think mentorship is so impactful and is so pivotal to the ability to basically, for lack of a better term, cut the line. Essentially, what you're doing is you're cutting right to the front of the line. Yep. You're expediting your ability to be successful through seeking mentorship. And the funny part about this is that in real estate, there's basically three pivotal pieces that are relied upon. There is the capital to do the deal, there is the deal, and there is the ability to put in manual hours to operate, orchestrate, and run the deal. It's three components. And what I will say is that part of me seeking out my mentor was understanding which components I had and which components I was lacking. So for me, I had access to a pretty significant amount of capital through my network that I had generated in the greater Boston area and some of the affluent submarkets outside of Boston. And a lot of these people liked, and trusted me because I had long-standing relationships with them through operating my own business in that ecosystem. I was trusted because I had my own business. I was trusted because they had seen me be successful in that space. And, this allowed for me to have a massive network that I could tap into for developing this aspiration of mine to pursue multifamily real estate investing. And so I had access to capital and I had a relentless work ethic. And so where I was lacking is I was lacking both on finding deals, but also on the infrastructure piece. The infrastructure meaning, who am I going to be using for lenders? What sort of systems am I going to be implementing? Who are my contractors? And all, and on down the line, what lenders are you going to use? What's underwriting strategies are you going to use? Really understanding the operative side of it. And in search of that, I began attending as many of my local real estate meetups as possible in my immediate demographic. And the first meetup that I had attended, literally the first two people that I spoke with are now both partners of mine. Literally the first two people I spoke with. It's just ironic that that's how it worked out. But what I will say is it's so funny is that my immediate business partner that I do all my transactions with now, his name is Andrew Freed. He's guest spoke on the Bigger Pockets podcast. For those of you that are familiar with that podcast, it's pretty prominent. But just in general, he actually has sort of functioned as a mentor while simultaneously being my business partner. And I think that, the thing that's unique about this is that he had all of the infrastructure, all of the systems, all of the intangibles, and all of the connections. He ran one of the largest real estate meetups in Worcester, and he was very connected in the ecosystem in the local demo of Massachusetts. And what he was lacking was somebody that had a comparable work ethic and access to capital. So I literally perfectly fit into what he was missing and vice versa. We did our first deal together, and then basically it was kind of, off on the runway from there.
So your partner from that first real estate meetup had become your mentor?
Yeah, so I would say yes. And then there's also been other people in my life that have been relatively impactful. I have I have a couple family members that have done very small scale stuff. My grandfather owned a couple rental units. He was very affluent. My uncle, who is the most affluent, like extended family member, also owned a couple rental units. And then once I got out into the sort of greater Boston area where I was operating my personal training business, I had clientele who were operated in various sectors. Some were doctors, some were, attorneys, some were, various sectors. But the two people that strike me as being the most impactful were, there was an individual who I trained who ran a private equity firm in which he basically raised money in a fund and then would deploy capital into opportunity zone based avenues. And then also simultaneously, he had other funds for, non-opportunity zone based endeavors as well. And that person was super impactful to just helping sort of answer some preliminary questions that I had and kind of broaden my mindset towards what multifamily investing or real estate investing as a whole could be for a future interest of mine. And then the other person, far more I would say conservative in regards to their risk tolerance. I trained a person who was actually the CFO of HUD Affordable Housing in Massachusetts. And that is a totally different angle on real estate. So it was interesting because I got a very sort of risk tolerance conservative person, and then another person who was like really aggressive and really versed on tax code. And I had both of them as sort of like kind of like the yin and yang in terms of being able to answer a lot of my questions in the early going. And the funniest part about all of this was they were paying me while I'm then getting an education from them because I'm coaching them in fitness. So it was pretty cool, to be honest.
So 3 years, 240 doors. What's the average size of the buildings?
I would say we tend to operate in like 5+. Most of our stuff ranges from like 6 to 15 units per building. The reason that we tend to operate in that size threshold is largely because it's too small for institutional money to take down. It doesn't make a lot of sense for them. It's not efficient. However, the people who own those buildings oftentimes are doing it as like a side hustle, not as like a full-time operative business. So there tends to be a lot of inefficiencies. There tends to be neglect on the actual structure itself, but then there also tends to be a pretty severe amount of inefficiency on the operative front. So we tend to target sort of like mom and pop landlords that have operational inefficiencies and deferred maintenance. And that's sort of our bread and butter. We don't do single family. We don't do Airbnb. We don't dabble. It's like the phrase that me and my partner use is an inch wide and a mile long. And so, the idea is like we're very narrowly focused on what we do, and we're very, very deep into what it is that we do well.
What kind of profitability do you guys run? What's been your cost per doors? What's your average profitability?
Yeah. So when analyzing properties, most people use a standard metric, which is called the 1% rule, which is whatever you're buying a property for, whatever you're buying a property for, you want the monthly rent roll to be roughly around 1% of the purchase price. So the monthly rent roll to equal 1% of the purchase price, that would mean traditionally that the deal would likely cash flow. Now, when we say monthly rent roll, we're saying pro forma. So not at the time of acquisition, we are saying at peak performance, if all the units were renovated, if they, based off of the size. And how we calculate this is we actually use, we don't actually bias our own information, our own predispositions on how to determine what pro forma rent is. We actually use HUD fair market rent values, which are basically disclosed by the government annually, habitually in October. That tells us what what a unit would rent for based off the size of the unit in the specific zip code that we are going to be operating in. And we use that to calculate our pro forma rent. We want pro forma rent to be at least 1% of the purchase price. That's basically our preliminary calculation. Now, we habitually try to purchase deals that are closer to like 1.2, 1.3, 1.4% of the purchase price. Now, next, what we
And then that's pre-renovation.
That is all in cost. So that is
Right, but your offer at your offer at 1.2% is of the pre-renovation value.
So we're searching for the end pro forma rent roll to be 1.2 to 1.5% of all-in cost. So purchase price plus renovation is your all-in cost. We want our pro forma to be 1.2 to 1.5 times that. This traditionally corresponds to us being able to garner between a 9 and a 15% cash on cash return. Also, it allows for us to habitually refinance the property in 12 to 18 months after stabilizing it to reach the pro forma rent roll that we've suggested. And upon stabilization and refinance, we are habitually returning between 50 and 100% of investor capital in that 12 to 18 month period. Now, what I will say is there are two major differences in what we do operationally versus standard JV, joint venture, or syndication models. The two things that we do that are different are that when we refinance a property and we are returning capital to our investors, the standard practice is to whatever funds are going to be returned are returned relative to ownership stake. So if the partnership is 50-50, 60-40, 70-30, the refinance funds are split accordingly. So in our circumstance, when we refinance a property, 100% of our proceeds go back to our investors first. So essentially, our investors are made whole first before we as operators seek to benefit. So what this does is it actually expedites the velocity of money for our investors. And the corresponding outcome is that in a given deal, right? If we are 50-50 partners as operators and as investors, if we are providing 100% of proceeds back, but you are only a 50% holder, essentially you're getting your money back twice as fast, right? Now, secondarily, is that we execute in about our stabilization in 12 to 18 months. The standard JV or syndication is between 2 and 3 years. So double the time. So the way that we look at it is if we can execute a deal in 12 to 18 months and we provide 100% of the refinance proceeds to our investors, every person who invests with us is getting the deal done twice as fast, and they're getting twice the amount of money back in return to all of our peers who operate doing the same form of thing in our same market. So all of our investors essentially are getting 4x the velocity of their money by investing with us versus investing with other operators in the area.
And how important is that? How important is velocity to your investment strategy?
Well, I think velocity is so important because once the capital from our investors is returned back to them, their position is not exited. So what this means is if I can get you your money back 4 times as fast as a peer, that means you can now recycle that money 4 times prior to getting it back from the other competitor. So now if you put money into a deal with us, you could now do 4 deals with us before you get your capital back from a competitor. And now every one of those deals that you put your money in, you've now gotten your money back and you now retain ownership stake in all 4 of those deals. So now you have appreciation from all 4 of those deals. You have tax benefits, depreciation from all of those deals. You have principal pay down from all of those deals. And you have residual cash flow from all of those deals. So you are getting 4 times the cash flow, 4 times the depreciation, 4 times the principal pay down, and 4 times the appreciation. And by the way, you have none of your own capital in the deal because your money has been returned to you and you're about to recycle it again. So 4x the velocity means 4x the number of revenue streams for you relative to a competitor.
So are you guys doing this on funds, LLCs, or how are you are you guys Series 65, or are you bringing in?
So it depends on the deal. If it's a larger deal, so like for example, we have one that we're closing in about 30 days that is a syndication model. So we're raising capital for that. We just finished our raise, and the property, so it's a 39 unit portfolio. We are buying the portfolio at 4.8 million. The property needs $600,000 of reno to make every unit A quality. So our all-in cost is 5.4, and the property appraised for 6.6. So essentially our investors made 1.8. So we as a team made $1.8 million just from signing the line from purchase cost to appraisal value. Half of that goes to our investors. So 900K goes to our investors, and the total capital in the deal is 1.6, right? So our investors made, roughly around over 50% on their money simply just by signing the line. And that's before we even do anything. So that's one example of a syndication model deal that we have performed, that we're in the midst of performing. Most of our deals we structure as a joint venture, where the difference between the two is that in a joint venture, investors have voting rights, and investors also have some semblance of a material role. So that could be as simplistic as them approving transactions over a certain monetary threshold. It could be doing quarterly meetings with financial reviews and projects that we're going to be pursuing in the near future to enhance the performance of the building, things like that. But I would say it's a mixture of joint ventures and syndications. We habitually target syndications when we are the capital required for the deal is over $1 million, and we habitually will joint venture if the capital is under $1 million. And in regards to a joint venture, we habitually try to keep the quantity of individuals that invest with us probably between anywhere from 1 investor up to like six or 7, in order to ensure that we stay in compliance. And so that sort of answers, how we structure our deals.
Got it. So you're structuring them more as joint ventures and syndications.
We do tend to do more joint ventures. Yeah.
Got it. So none of you guys are Series 65.
I don't. We would only do that for syndication model.
Got it. Where are the opportunities going forward right now? Obviously, a lot going on inside the world. People are losing their houses. They're being foreclosed on because of the scamdemic and all the lockdowns setting everybody in an odd position. Inflation at ridiculous levels we haven't seen in most of my lifetime. So where are things going now? As people downsize, everybody move into an apartment? Everybody going to grab a condo and let go of mega mansion?
Yeah. So I think that the biggest thing that we're seeing is that the ability to acquire lending for a home purchase is gravely compromised based off of the current interest rate environment. So as long as that persists, you're going to see a vast majority of the working class get priced out of being able to pursue purchasing a home. And particularly this is true in Massachusetts because the price per a single family home in Massachusetts right now in central Mass, if you want to be working in or near Boston, is roughly around $450,000 to $550,000. And if you're putting a 5% down payment down, the mortgage associated with that is anywhere from $3,500 to $5,500. And so I think that, in order to make that make sense, like, let's just do back of the napkin math, right? A person needs to be earning, whoever is qualifying for that needs to be earning between $120,000 as a household for a $3,500 mortgage, or they need to be earning roughly around $200,000 for a $5,500 mortgage. So you're talking about,
or even a little better than that, actually.
Yeah. So what you're talking about, that's at a 33%, monthly expenditure rate for housing. So I think that, that's what's considered like the limit. And so with that being said, you're talking about, if you're a single person, you can't buy a house. So you got to be dual income, and both people got to be making either two people making 60K or two people making 100K in order for you to be able to afford a starter home. So what this does is it gravely amplifies the quantity of people in the renter pool. So you have a vast quantity of people who now are looking to rent houses because they can't afford to buy. So I think that what this does is it raises demand for multifamily apartments. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing, because on a national scale, pairing that with the fact that Massachusetts has an extremely large quantity of red tape surrounding the ability to build new housing and how densely packed the existing housing is, it makes it extremely challenging to meet the demands that are present for rentals. And so that's why Massachusetts right now is probably one of the few areas in the country where we are still seeing very, very marginal sequential rental growth, rent price growth over the last calendar year, where a vast quantity of housing markets in America are seeing massive price declines and massive rent price decreases to correspond. So I think,
with that, increased vacancies.
You got it.
Yeah.
So, where we stand, it's like, we're not having trouble filling vacancies. We're seeing systematic, sort of sequential price growth. And I think that the last piece is this attests to, yes, I think so many investors are scared of investing in Massachusetts because the tenant bylaws are extremely friendly to the tenant. But I also would say that at the same time, Massachusetts is probably one of the most insulated economic environments in the entire country, because our entire economic ecosystem is centered around the education system in Boston, pharmaceuticals, financial markets, and biotech. And every single one of those, in some way, shape, or form, is an industry in which the government actively supports in some way, shape, or form, or condones. So those things are going to prosper and succeed no matter what. And I think that sort of ripples out into all of the periphery that surround Boston. And I think that's why Boston is one of the best areas to invest, in my opinion.
Well, and wouldn't you also agree that part of that government involvement, or the government in the mix portion of the equation, is the reason that apartment rents are not only stable but going up? Because you've got more and more people that are in those kinds of secure entities. Even if the business isn't a government business, it's subsidized or reliant upon or fed by the government. That's going to make for more employee types, less entrepreneur types, less business owner types, which means more apartments.
So what I would say is, on like a macro scale, I agree with what you're saying. I do think that rent prices do continue to go up. The industries do tend to be propped up by government support. I think that in general, it props up the income earned by the folks in these demographics. Mm-hmm. But I also think that for anybody who is an entrepreneur who exists in those environments, there is not a more desirable, lucrative environment to be an entrepreneur, because you have stable incomes, excess funds for spending, right? And the ability to strategically position yourself to benefit. So what I see is all the people who are tradesmen who run their own businesses, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, GCs. You get people who are service providers that operate in the service industry and perform services for all of these people. They crush it. These people crush it. So it's about, the mindset is you're never going to beat up. You're never going to beat them. So you might as well join in and try and figure out how you can not only hack it, but benefit.
For sure. So are you just investing now, or are you guys also teaching classes? You said that your partner headed up one of the larger investment groups there in your area. What's going
so
on
what I
with
would say
training
is I host a monthly sort of like mentorship based program the first Tuesday of every month, 8:30 to 9:30 or 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month. Most of this is just predicated on people who are in my immediate local market that are looking for mentorship. And then Andrew and myself, we guest speak at a number of meetups locally in our immediate market. We might guest speak at like one meetup a month or every other month or something like that. And I would say that we attend a vast quantity of meetups, probably 5 per month or so, and use that as a form of just building our network in our immediate area. And one of the most powerful things about building out your network is that anytime you come up with a problem that you don't know how to solve, I guarantee you can find somebody that you know, like, and trust that can help you solve that problem.
For sure. Do you know Fraser Bailey?
I don't know Fraser Bailey.
Fraser Bailey, fitness guy who was just doing an event. It just occurred to me because he was a guest last week, doing an event in Boston, like right now at I think it's a real estate event there.
Oh, okay.
Before we wrap up, any last things that you want to share with the audience? How do they get a hold of you? What's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah. So if you guys are looking to get in contact with me, you can follow me on Instagram at the 1099 mindset. Additionally, myself and Andrew, we put out a monthly newsletter that shows our deal structure, how we structure our deals with our investors. It also goes over all the deals that we're doing right now. It also provides like investor tips and podcasts that we guest appearance on. So feel free to click that link in my bio on Instagram. Again, it's at the 1099 mindset. And let's connect and hopefully we can find some synergies between what me and Andrew are doing and what you're looking to do.
I love it. Any last things you want to share with everybody before we wrap up today?
No, it's great. I really appreciate you having me on, and I hopefully some of the stuff that I shared and mentioned provides some insight or value to some fellow investors or people who are looking to invest. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions as well if you want to reach out to me privately.
Awesome, man. Hey, I appreciate you very much being on the show, as I always do. If you get to the Vegas area, we have an event going on called Turning Point about every other month. We've trained almost 1 million real estate investors in all sorts of disciplines, and it's just very powerful influence and mindset stuff. Tickets are $3,000 a piece, but I'd like to give you 2 tickets, you and your partner, or 4 tickets, you and your partners. Come on out, join us in Vegas. Just let me know, or my assistant who booked you on the show, let them know. We'd love to have you there. Thank you so much. And you were going to add something else?
I was just going to say, yeah, absolutely. We definitely take you up on that. I was actually just out that way at Zion National Park a little while back.
Good hiking there, man. Good stuff.
Great.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much, Zach. You're awesome. I appreciate your time, and thanks so much for all your wisdom. You were very inspirational.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Marshall.
Take care, friend. Hey, good stuff every single day. We're in exciting times, and we talked, as you heard there, we talked about velocity and the speed of money, and the idea that has to be put into the equation, that you've got to ask yourself, yeah, this thing could make me 22% return on investment, but it's going to take me this long to do it. This thing over here only makes me 8% return on investment, but I can do it 5 times in the amount of time it took me to do that 22% deal. Money loves speed. Velocity, as it pertains to your finances, is the speed and frequency in which your money changes hands. In any transaction, any real estate transaction, there's two basic sides to the equation and two major places where the money is made. One side is the asset, it's the house, it's the real estate, it's the property. And however that property is bought and sold or revalued or repositioned, in a residential circumstance, it might be a property that's had deferred maintenance that you fix and flip. In a multifamily circumstance, it might be renovating those apartments so that you can bring up that cap rate, make each one of those apartments rent out for more, increase the rent roll. In a commercial property, same thing, increasing the quality of the building so you can increase both the tenancy, how many people are in there, but also the value of the building. So you can take an asset that was worth 5 million, do some things to it, make it worth 10 million, or just increase the rents, and that makes it worth more money too. Or you can, on the finance side of things, understand that the money is made in the loans. And are the people carrying those loans, is it owner finance inside the deal? Are you buying an existing performing or non-performing note? Are you loaning the money just like what Zach was talking about? Are you putting together syndications or joint ventures, partnership agreements to go out and buy and invest in real estate? There's money to be made. And the question is, what do you want to do? As you know, I'm really giddy right now. So much so about the whole idea of the money in the money that we're putting a lot of focus right now on better transactions inside of real estate investing. With over 1 million students, real estate investors, having gone through my program over the course of many, many years, I'm seeing a real shift in things right now, without a doubt. Absolutely, wholeheartedly agree. You're going to see a whole lot of opportunity inside a single family. There's going to be a lot of properties being sold for substantially less. You also are going to see a large amount of people, just like we were discussing, downsizing, going from mega mansions. So a lot of those high-end properties, which we haven't even really talked about, because the challenge with a high-end property, once you have a high-end buyer, once you've gotten above $5 million, you start interacting with a different kind of customer or end user. Somebody that can invest 5 million or more, 10 million for sure, or above. That person is particular. They have their particular needs, their particular desires, and their particular wants. So they may not want that property that was designed by somebody else who had their own particular needs and wants, desires, look of the property, and more. Also, right now, as people are being crunched financially, you've got a substantial number of people that are going back to their banks, going back, refinancing. You've got banks who are the masters of the money game. They're definitely refinancing. They're definitely wanting people to sell their existing loan either back to them so they can refinance at a higher rate, or just get out of those low interest loans, get cash on that loan that's already probably paid out, and then reinvest that money for velocity and make more money. If you want to know how to make money, watch the people making money. And right now, who's making the most money? The banks. Become the bank. If you'd like to become the bank, I'd like to help you get more information on two things. Number one, how to reprogram your brain. If you'd like to come join us at Turning Point, I've got 3 Turning Point tickets available for the first 3 people who call 1-800-92-POWER. And I'd also like to give you information personally, frankly, on how you can begin investing in notes and potentially see returns of anywhere between 10, 15, 20, 30, 40% every transaction, so that the velocity of that can multiply that number accordingly, depending on how many times that money is turned over, how many deals are turned over in the course of a 12-month period. So if you'd like to join me in Las Vegas, July 16th through the 18th at Turning Point, first 3 people to call 1-800-92-POWER, get tickets. To give you an idea of what you're going to experience, take a look at this Turning Point video.
Turning Point, a total change in direction for the better.
Who here is ready for a turning point? You absolutely have to have one. Put them high.
The 2-day Turning Point seminar is different than any other program in that it does more than just teach you the skills for your relationships, wealth, and power. It also programs you on a subconscious level to put those skills into immediate use.
This weekend is about empowerment. This weekend is about you understanding how to take charge of your own life.
You will learn total control of your thoughts and emotions, how to use PND, or psychoneural duplication, to take on the thoughts and actions of others to produce similar results. Whether it's losing weight, changing habits, being a millionaire.
When you think what a millionaire thinks and you do what a millionaire does, you'll produce similar results.
You will learn to program these powerful tools at a subconscious level for immediate and lasting results.
Your conscious mind is what's called your critical factor. It's the mind you're using right now to determine whether the information I'm giving to you will work for you or not. Your subconscious mind, on the other hand, is merely a computer. It's non-critical. It doesn't even have the ability to make judgment. So all trance, hypnosis, reprogramming is setting aside the critical factor of your conscious mind and non-critically accepting suggestions.
And empowering.
To make a fear vanish, you must experience it fully.
As it helps you create your life exactly the way you want it. Bring your family closer. Find the love of your life. Create strategies for wealth. Learn irresistible influence, and so much more. Because of the intimate nature of this course, seats are very limited. Register now before your life passes you by and there are no more turning points for you. Tens of thousands of people have learned this information and are using it daily.
You don't get angry if you get fired from your job and you know that within 2 years you will be a multi-millionaire.
It's your time.
There's a way for you to win this game that is different than how you're doing it, and it works.
It's your life.
When you learn how to do that, you become more powerful, and power is for use.
It's your turning point.
Oh my goodness. All that love. I just said I was giving $1 million to anybody that would contact me within 2 seconds. Nobody did. My microphone apparently was off. So what I was saying is, hey, I'm really excited right now. We're in remarkable times. And as the great Wayne Gretzky says, you got to skate to where the puck is going, not where the puck is today. Where is the puck going? It's election year. And because it's election year, guess what? Lots of turmoil going to be thrown in your path, wrenches in your gears, economically, all sorts of turmoil. Mark my words, we're going to see riots again. We do every single election summer. You're going to see protests and silly stuff from people that are just distractions from what's really going on. Also, what's going on right now? I just want to reiterate this, and I want to forewarn you and have you forward thinking about it. During the time that everybody was locked down, most people experienced a substantial setback in their economics. They weren't making the kind of money they were making prior. People getting laid off, people's hours being reduced, any number of things. We've got, on top of that, inflation at record levels right now under the current administration. Less money, more expensive. Suddenly people are going to be faced with the realization they've got to downsize. They've got to sell their McMansion or their really nice $500,000 million property. And in many circumstances, not just sell because we are where we are. They've just got to get out. They've got to likely give the property back to the bank, downsize into a condo or an apartment. You're going to see a lot of people attempting to pull cash out of their properties to invest in other things, at the very least, at the very most, even to save themselves. So where's the money? It's in the money. I'd love to help you understand about note investing. If you are in my inner circle, if you are a part of the people that I love so much, I'm all in. If you'd like to be all in and like more information, either contact me directly. You have my cell phone, or contact Anthony at support@certaintyinc.com, and we'd like to tell you more. I'm Marshall Silver. It's been a phenomenal show. You are totally loved. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same back channel. We are live every day. See you then. Hey there, moguls. It's me, Marshall Silver, your personal millionaire maker. Getting very excited about my brand new show coming up 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'm going to broadcast live to you. I'm going to give you content, information, emotional, mental, physical, and even spiritual power. I'll also invite some of my cool multi-millionaire and billionaire friends onto the show to give you more direction, more advice for having it all. All the knowledge to get everything you want and so much more. All you got to do is log in to the show to get information coming to you live from the bunker right here at Studio Money. So stay tuned.